Hidden behind the luxury and silence of Prince Andrew's private villa was a discovery so disturbing it sent shockwaves through the royal family. Secret rooms, shadowy guest lists, and a trail of money that didn't add up. What they uncovered behind those doors left even the royals in tears. Discovery of the hidden villa. It was supposed to be nothing more than a peaceful holiday home, a quiet retreat where Prince Andrew could escape the public eye. But that all changed in early 2025 when a routine inspection by a contractor triggered the unthinkable. While walking through the estate, the worker noticed a perfectly preserved section of wall that didn't appear in the original floor plans. It wasn't just that it looked new, it looked untouched. No scuff marks, no wear, no ventilation. That odd discovery led to a silent alert sent back to royal staff at the property. Soon after, a discreet call was made to Buckingham Palace. Within 48 hours, a senior aide arrived, and together they opened a narrow, hidden door leading into a part of the villa that had seemingly been cut off from the rest of the residence. What they found stunned them. The space behind the wall was not a storage area or panic room. It was an entirely separate wing, sealed and preserved like a secret time capsule. Inside were items, files, and furnishings that didn't match the rest of the villa, suggesting it had been built with specific, secretive intentions. By that same evening, multiple palace insiders were called into a high-level emergency meeting. Staff were instructed to remain silent. No press releases were issued, and internal security was told to stand down until the scene could be reviewed in full. But inside royal circles, the whispers had already begun. This wasn't just an architectural anomaly. It was a symbol of secrecy, hidden behind the personal space of a senior royal, hidden behind his own bedroom wall. It was as if the villa had grown a shadow, one palace source quietly told a journalist days later. The so-called holiday retreat had now transformed into something far darker. What was supposed to be a private escape had become the epicenter of a royal mystery. And it was only just beginning. What was inside? Shocking evidence. Once the hidden area was fully opened, the atmosphere in the room shifted. Staff went pale. The security detail was reportedly frozen in place. Behind the wall, the space wasn't dusty or abandoned. It had been maintained. Inside were multiple guest lists, marked with dates and initials. Some were clearly famous names. Others weren't immediately recognizable. There were also photographs, carefully filed, showing scenes that raised serious concerns. Some featured people never publicly known to be at the villa. Others were even more alarming. Moments captured in private settings that were never meant to surface. Then came the documents. In drawers, under floor panels, and inside locked trunks were financial records that didn't match any known declarations. Payments listed with no sources. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Amounts in the tens of thousands, spread across several years. The villa wasn't just hiding people, it was hiding money, secrets, and possibly activities that crossed legal lines. In a narrow hallway, investigators discovered another door, this one leading to a small room with no windows. Inside was a soundproofed space, no more than 10 feet across, equipped with a high-end locking system. It had its own air system and power supply. What it was used for remains unknown, but its existence added a new level of fear to the unfolding situation. Even the visible parts of the villa told a story. Some rooms were lavish beyond reason, with imported art, expensive rugs, and untouched bottles of rare alcohol. Others showed signs of being lived in briefly and suddenly abandoned. The contrast was haunting. It wasn't a holiday home. It was a fortress for secrets, said one staff member under anonymity. As the investigation widened, it became clear this villa wasn't just a retreat. It was a carefully constructed shell hiding a life few inside the palace wanted to believe existed. Why the royal family was left in tears. The moment the full scope of the villa's contents was revealed, the royal family fell into silence. Not the dignified, rehearsed silence they use for media. This was something else. It was personal. It was painful. And for some, it was unforgivable. Inside Buckingham Palace, word traveled quickly. King Charles, already burdened by public scrutiny and royal reforms, was reportedly devastated by what had surfaced. For Prince William, the blow was even more emotional. Those closest to him say he felt humiliated and betrayed, unsure how to face the public while carrying the shame of a sibling's actions. And while Queen Camilla remained composed in public, insiders say behind closed doors, she was one of the first to demand a full internal review. This wasn't just about family. It was about the institution. It's important to understand how much the monarchy has fought to preserve its image over the last 2 decades. From Diana's tragic death in 1997, to Harry and Meghan's departure in 2020, and now to this, each event has chipped away at their carefully crafted legacy. But nothing hit as hard behind the scenes as this villa. Because this time, there was no outside force to blame. The damage was self-inflicted. What hurt the most, according to royal sources, was the depth of deception. For years, the property had been promoted internally as a place of peace and retreat. Even family members had visited during holidays, unaware of what lay behind sealed doors. To discover that behind those same walls were hidden rooms, secret guest lists, and possible financial misconduct, it sent shockwaves through every corner of the royal estate. "You could feel the grief in the air," said one palace worker. This wasn't just about scandal. It was heartbreak, pure and simple. By the time senior officials arrived to assess the fallout, the royal household had already gone into crisis mode. Press teams were instructed to prepare for leaks. Lawyers were called in, and communications with the estate where the villa was located were restricted. The illusion had cracked, and there was no putting it back together. The question now wasn't just, what happened? It became, how do we survive this? The role of the villa in the larger scandal. As details about the villa continued to leak, its role expanded from private retreat to public evidence. It was no longer just a place where rules were bent. It became a symbol of everything wrong with unchecked power. And what made it worse was how tightly it seemed to link to the already existing scandals circling Prince Andrew. Several of the items found inside the villa, photos, travel logs, and guest names, overlapped with names from past investigations, particularly those connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. These weren't just social acquaintances. These were individuals tied to global headlines, criminal trials, and international outrage. And now, there were potential traces of them at a royal property. It didn't take long for reporters and investigators to connect the dots. A supposed holiday villa had now become the scene of possible meetings, parties, or arrangements that never appeared on royal records. According to insiders, some of the villa's contents matched up with gaps in Andrew's known travel during 2010 to 2016, a window where scrutiny around his conduct was already high. But perhaps most troubling of all was how the villa operated. It existed almost entirely outside royal oversight. No regular audits, no clear line of accountability. Even some palace staff admitted they had no idea what the property was really used for. In that sense, the villa represented more than a physical space. It became a symbol of privilege without consequence. The moment we found that place, it stopped being a retreat. It became evidence, one royal security advisor allegedly remarked. Public trust was already fragile. This villa became the final crack in the dam. The line between personal life and public duty had been blurred, no, obliterated. And with the media now circling, the pressure on the monarchy reached its highest level in years. As calls for transparency grew louder and whispers of possible legal reviews spread through London, the royal family was forced to admit this was no longer a contained problem. The villa had connected itself to something far greater and far more dangerous. Financial secrets and hidden deals. After the emotional wave passed, attention turned to the one question that had everyone on edge. How was this villa funded? On paper, Prince Andrew receives a modest allowance from the royal estate and some personal inheritance. Yet, the villa, worth an estimated £17 million, boasted high-end Italian marble, hand-stitched Moroccan leather furniture, and a custom security system built to military-grade standards. The numbers didn't add up. Hidden within the villa's private office were files containing bank transfers, receipts, and handwritten notes referencing foreign business deals. One ledger, dated 2019, showed unexplained deposits from a Middle Eastern investment firm known for discreet dealings with diplomats and high-profile individuals. Another document referenced a property development project in Kazakhstan, with Prince Andrew's initials scribbled next to a six-figure figure. None of these had ever been publicly disclosed. Investigators suspect the villa may have doubled as an informal hub for overseas networking, where unofficial meetings, endorsements, or trade introductions were quietly arranged. Some of the companies linked to these payments had no websites, no listed CEOs, and were registered in offshore tax havens. It was the kind of financial web that would take forensic accountants months to untangle. More troubling was the suggestion that some of these funds may have been tied to Andrew's role as a former UK trade envoy. Though he left that position in 2011, some documents suggest he may have maintained private relationships with business figures he met during his official travels. That blurred line between personal gain and public duty once again returned, and this time it was backed by paperwork. This wasn't just a question of how he lived. It became a question of who paid for him to live that way, a former Treasury official said privately. The royal household reportedly launched an internal audit, but critics say the response was far too late. By the time questions were asked, the story had already spread across media, fueling speculation of a wider money laundering scheme or, at the very least, serious ethical misconduct. The villa, once hidden behind tropical hedges and locked gates, now stood wide open, not just physically, but financially. It was no longer a secret home. It was a symbol of unchecked royal privilege, and possibly something even more damning. Guests, parties, and secret visits. If the money trail was alarming, the guest logs were downright disturbing. Over several years, dozens of people had come and gone from the villa, some familiar, some hidden behind initials and code names. Many visits took place during windows when Prince Andrew was supposedly on private rest. But these weren't quiet weekends. These were lavish, unrecorded gatherings that never appeared on royal calendars. Staff who worked at the villa under temporary contracts later described scenes of unreal opulence. Tables laid for 40 people, imported chefs flown in from France and Monaco, and music systems wired into every room. But more disturbing was who attended. One palace insider described guests being smuggled in through side entrances and rooms being cleared in advance, so no photos or CCTV would capture identities. An explosive claim emerged from a former security contractor who alleged that during one trip to Asia, Andrew had hosted a group of 40 escorts in a luxury hotel suite, organized using royal staff under the cover of a trade event. That event, meant to strengthen economic ties, had nothing on record of such a party. When asked for comment, the palace declined. Evidence inside the villa backed up those claims. Notes, emails, and flight itineraries matched dates where no official royal activity was scheduled. Some guests reportedly stayed for multiple days, with staff instructed to not speak unless spoken to. There was a system in place, a pattern of behavior that repeated itself: quiet arrivals, lavish nights, and quick exits. That villa was a revolving door for the privileged few, one anonymous housekeeper revealed. No one asked questions because no one dared. Security protocols, normally strict around royal properties, appeared to be almost non-existent. Logs were either incomplete or erased. Protection officers assigned to Andrew admitted they were sometimes left in the dark. It was clear the villa had operated in a world of its own, untouchable, unwatched, and entirely separate from the standards expected of a royal household. As more names surfaced, the pressure mounted. If these visits were funded using public money or conducted under the guise of royal duties, the scandal could grow beyond one prince. It could question how much the monarchy knew and chose to ignore. Cover-ups, leaks, and whistleblowers. At first, everything was handled quietly. After the villa's discovery in early 2025, the royal household scrambled to contain the damage. Internal emails were flagged, staff were warned not to speak to outsiders, and all investigative activity around the villa was reclassified under a need-to-know security level. But the truth, as it often does, started to slip through the cracks. It began with a single leak. A former palace auditor, no longer bound by contract, handed over a document to an investigative journalist. The file contained redacted property expenses, with portions missing and expenses marked simply as unexplained. Within weeks, whispers turned into headlines. The British press, already skeptical of Prince Andrew's return to public life, began circling like vultures. Reporters started asking uncomfortable questions. Why was this villa off the books? Who visited? And what? Was taxpayer money involved? Inside the palace, panic set in. Multiple attempts were made to downplay the discovery, first by suggesting the villa was a private space of no official concern, then by denying any knowledge of improper activity. But conflicting statements from staff, some anonymously speaking to the press, created more suspicion than clarity. A key moment came when a whistleblower, a former royal protection officer assigned to Andrew's estate, came forward. He revealed that during his 12-month posting, he was specifically instructed not to patrol the villa's western wing, the same section where the hidden rooms were later found. According to his account, it was treated like a black zone, off limits. I've never seen anything like it. You can hide the rooms, you can hide the ledgers, but you can't hide the silence, a senior royal correspondent commented on air. The damage wasn't just external. Inside the palace, senior advisors reportedly clashed over how to manage the growing scandal. Some urged a proactive release of information, while others insisted on full lockdown and silence. That divide created tension not just among staff, but within the family itself. Trust began to erode. The villa was no longer just a physical location. It became the symbol of secrets that had spiraled out of control. And as the story exploded across international media, it became clear. The cover-up had become its own scandal. Damage control and fallout within the monarchy. With pressure mounting from the press, the public, and even inside Parliament, the palace had no choice but to act. In late October 2025, a royal spokesperson confirmed that Prince Andrew would be vacating the Royal Lodge, the 30-room estate he had lived in for decades. This was no minor decision. It marked the first time a senior royal had been forcibly removed from a residence in modern memory. The message was clear. The monarchy was cutting ties. Though no official charges had been filed, the optics of the villa, its contents, and the global backlash were enough. Andrew was reportedly furious at the decision, but powerless to stop it. King Charles, who had already faced public backlash for perceived leniency in the past, took a hardline approach this time. One senior source said, Charles knew the institution had to come first, even if it meant pushing his brother out. Internally, royal family dynamics reached a boiling point. Prince William, deeply focused on protecting the crown's future, supported the decision. There are rumors he even pushed for it. Princess Anne, known for her no-nonsense attitude, is said to have told aides, "This damages all of us." Outside the family, public pressure was relentless. Polls showed that 67% of British citizens believed Andrew should permanently lose his titles. Media outlets demanded transparency. In Parliament, some MPs raised questions about how the royal estates are funded and audited. The villa discovery had shaken the very foundation of royal financial credibility. In response, palace officials quietly initiated an internal review. Certain staff were reassigned, and others asked to sign updated confidentiality agreements. Royal advisors began re-evaluating how properties tied to the crown were being used and whether private deals might be operating under royal roofs. The damage had been done, but now the mission was containment. The royals are survivors, but this time survival came at a price, one former palace press officer said. The legacy of the villa had already rewritten Andrew's story. His return to public life was now off the table. His role in royal engagements? Gone. His standing with the public? Destroyed. But perhaps more importantly, the villa had forced the monarchy to look inward for the first time in years, with the full weight of modern accountability crashing at its gates. What it means for public trust and royal privilege. The discovery inside Prince Andrew's holiday villa didn't just expose one royal's misconduct. It opened a national conversation about what it truly means to be a royal in the modern world. For years, the British monarchy operated under a delicate balance, privilege in exchange for public service. But what happens when the privilege runs unchecked and the service disappears behind closed doors? Public reaction to the villa scandal was swift and fierce. Across social media, newspaper editorials, and televised debates, the same word kept surfacing: entitlement. How could a senior member of the royal family live in multi-million-pound estates, host private events with no oversight, and receive taxpayer support without ever being held accountable? A YouGov poll in November 2025 showed a sharp drop in confidence, with over 70% of respondents saying they now supported stricter limits on royal spending and property use. The deeper issue wasn't just about Andrew. It was about the system that allowed this to happen. There were no routine checks, no transparent audits, no whistleblower protections. For many critics, the villa symbolized a monarchy that had drifted too far from the people it was meant to serve. Even royal supporters admitted this was a turning point. As one veteran royal correspondent put it, this wasn't a scandal about affairs or bad judgment. This was about secrecy, power, and who pays the price when things go wrong. Inside the palace, discussions turned serious. Could something like this happen again? Were there other properties, other hidden rooms, other quiet arrangements made without public knowledge? The Queen's motto of "never complain, never explain" suddenly felt dangerously outdated in the digital age, where nothing stays hidden forever. To restore trust, some insiders began pushing for reforms. These included publishing detailed spending reports, subjecting royal estates to independent audits, and creating stricter guidelines on private property use by royals receiving public funds. While none of these had been formally enacted by the end of 2025, the pressure to modernize the institution had never been higher. The villa had done more than humiliate the House of Windsor. It had peeled back the curtain, and what the public saw was no longer the fairy tale. It was a gilded cage filled with secrets. Where the story leads next, the villa's legacy. The fallout from the villa scandal is far from over. As of late 2025, the villa itself remains sealed under investigation. Its staff have been dismissed, its contents logged and secured. There are ongoing inquiries into who funded the property, who authorized its construction, and what it was really used for. But the physical fate of the villa is only half the story. Prince Andrew, now fully removed from public duties and facing the harshest consequences of any royal in recent memory, is reportedly considering a permanent move abroad. Discussions have taken place about selling off parts of his estate or placing the villa into private trust, but no final decision has been made. One former courtier stated bluntly, "That villa may never be lived in again. It's toxic now, permanently linked to a royal collapse." Within the royal household, the scandal has prompted a review of how all senior royals use their properties. Future generations, especially those like Prince George and Princess Charlotte, may grow up under completely different rules. Staff have been warned that no room is off limits during internal checks, and surprise inspections of royal residences have quietly begun under new protocols. The media continues to pursue every angle. Investigators are reportedly tracing financial records going back over 2 decades, looking for other hidden purchases or unusual real estate tied to the crown. Meanwhile, lawmakers are weighing legislation that would place more legal responsibility on royal figures involved in public financial scandals. But perhaps the biggest question is what this means for the monarchy's long-term survival. Is this villa just an isolated scandal, or a sign of deeper rot that must be cut out? This was more than just a property, it was a mirror, and what it reflected shook the whole kingdom. Only time will tell whether the monarchy uses this moment to evolve, or lets the villa become just another buried secret, sealed behind walls and forgotten until the next royal shock shakes the crown again. This wasn't just another royal scandal. It was a devastating blow to the monarchy's reputation. The secrets inside Prince Andrew's villa shattered trust and exposed a world hidden from the public. As investigations continue, one thing is clear. What they found has changed the royal family forever, and there's no turning back.